Let your curiosity rise.
Matrix webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Matrix webcast. Where the human spirit flies.
Hey, welcome to the MedBix webcast. This is Ramana Namaraju. I'm the host. With all the Indian accent I have, so guilty as charged. But this is today is a special day, very exciting day for me. I interviewed several prominent doctors in my life, but this is going to be the different level. The today's interview. That is a really fantastic guest we have. Before that, let me introduce my co-host, Dr. Susan Davis. She is I have two brilliant, beautiful women today. So welcome, Susan. She is being a co-host for me a long time. Welcome, Susan.
Good
Welcome to the
evening,
MedBix
Ramana.
webcast. Are you
Thank
excited?
you so very much. I'm so excited. I am so excited to meet such an extraordinary human. And I think the most extraordinary part is the human beneath all the accolades myself.
Yeah. I want to thank you especially because you did, in this podcast, you brought that human kind of a spirit to that. You've been a great co-host for me for a long time. I need to thank you, so much.
Thank you, Ramana. You know what? We make a wonderful dynamic duo, and I learn from you literally every single day. And the things that we learn from your guests, like the scientist last night, and we're about to meet and introduce to our come on, you have been doing I have to return the favor and the thank you, because the magnificence of the humans and the goodness that we're doing through these conversations are immeasurable. Truly, thank you.
That's what we do. We bring mathematics and physics and science and medicine all together. That is a combination we want to bring it to the table. Let me talk about a little bit about country Hungary. Okay, Hungary is a small country. You know how I know about the country? It produced a brilliant mathematicians, physicists, scientists. I know John Woon. I'm in Silicon Valley now. John von Neumann is like a god here. He's a computer architect. He designed the computer systems. John von Neumann is from Hungary. Edward Teller, who invented the hydrogen bomb, and then Eugene Wigner, my friend's father is a mathematician in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I went to see, he already died, but I saw the Eugene Wigner's house. He's from Hungary. Paul Erdős, a brilliant mathematician. All of them are in the lineage. I don't know what is the special waters of Hungary, but we have a special guest. She is really changed the world. She saved the world. She is also from Hungary. She came from a very humble beginnings, like I'm from a small village, no running water, no electricity, and that brilliance she cannot stop, right? That is wherever you are at. So one of the most brilliant women saved the millions of lives through COVID vaccine. Then she's a trailblazer, mRNA pioneer. Let me welcome Dr. Katalin Karikó.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, Dr. Karikó. It is truly an honor to have you here. I'm totally excited about it. Let me ask you, where were you when you received the Nobel Prize? Were you sleeping? Did it wake you up?
I received the Nobel Prize in Stockholm.
In Stockholm.
Of course.
No, not receiving the news. When did you?
You said that when I received the award.
Yeah,
Yes.
Receiving the news.
I was right here, in this house where we live. I was here. Yeah.
In the middle of the night, you got a call. That's what it is.
Yeah, it was like 3:00 in the morning. Yes.
3 o'clock in the morning.
It was like a 6-hour difference between Sweden and East Coast.
So when Ramana was introducing you, Katalin, he said, "I'm not sure there's something in the water because all of these amazing scientists from Hungary." And frankly, I've spent the afternoon reading your book, and it has been the most wonderful story. So it's not just in the water, it's in the village, it's in the town, it's in the people, it's in your education, it's in your father's history, your mother's history, in your history. Tell us a bit about, I'm interested about this human. I'm you being the human. A little bit about your very beginnings.
I have to say that there are many scientists like me who work very hard and who started with very humble beginning and did a lot of important work. We just, we don't talk too much about scientists and science. And thank you very much for inviting me. It is a very important thing to educate the public about, scientists and science, and to show them that we scientists are one of them. We work very hard and we try to help and invent things and help with medicine and other achievements. And so they have to understand, the public, that we are one of them, and then we are working very hard, and not like somebody who's just, thinking about some exclusive things and who cares about things. Yeah, so that's important. And we also have to somehow talk about, the science, that what we are doing, that with a simple term, and explain to the public many things, because I think that we get here that the people do not like scientists and science, refusing them, because we did not explain. We are responsible for it, that, when I ask high school students to name a scientist who is alive, they cannot say anybody, but they can name basketball players and all kind of sports people, and so that we have responsibility here. But yes, so I grew up in a very small town. It was 10,000 people lived there, and my parents had only elementary school education, and my father was butcher and my mother was bookkeeper. And I learned early on in my life that, hard work, part of life, and how to make sausage, of course, because my father was butcher and I helped him. And I have a sister, 3 years older, and she ended up became an economist. She got a PhD and I got a PhD in biology. So
but Katalin, I don't want to interrupt you, but you said something so poignant in your book about what you're saying right now. Work, pleasure, work, fun, play. It was life. You didn't know, it wasn't a difference. When you guys, when you were talking about the home that you were wanting to move into someday and restoring that home, you talked about the physical work. Was it work, or was it just life, and was it play at the same time? And you seem to have done that through your entire career. And I'm thinking this is a gift to humanity, this story right here. Find your gift, find your goal.
Yeah, actually, at the Harvard University, scientists already discovered that those children who, doing chores at home, they are more successful because they learn that they are part of the family unit, and they are doing things, and they seems that it is part of life. It is fun. I mean, I was so proud. My sister we were in elementary school, and she was cooking because we were behind the iron curtain. Communist Saturday, Sunday, my parents had to go to work. And my sister in elementary school, she cooked. I peeled the potato. I always did because she's 3 years older, so I do the lower level of, peeling potato, making the fire, because we had stove. And when we were playing, whether we were playing school, I was the pupil, and she and her friends who were same age, they were the teachers. I was always the lower level of person. So, but it was, we were playing and we were doing things. We had to go to get water in the street. We had a well there, and so it was normal. So what we were doing and contributed.
You were talking about, you were talking about cooking. I don't know much about Hungary. I was reading about a little bit about that. One of the things is I loved it about chicken. Your paprika is the main spice in Hungary. There's like a chicken day. All it looks like a very Indian. It's a very mixed, very different than Europe. My brother lived in Romania. It's a very different than Romanian dishes, or like a ground pork, ground beef, and eggs together. That's it. There is not much of a variety there. Hungary is very different. It's a very unique culture. Can you explain that, how that brought up this science? One of the things he mentioned, I loved it, is that scientists supposed to learn, study nature, but they want to put their interest in publishing in nature. I love that. Like I said. So tell us a little bit about that, your interest in how that play.
Yeah, about cooking, I have
Like,
to say
Yeah,
that
both.
Tell us about cooking, Katalin. I didn't read that.
it's
Yeah,
chemistry. It is chemistry, like if you put together things and in a certain portion, and then at the end you can enjoy it. And I have to say, I worked 8 years in Germany, and they had good food there too. So there's in the other countries there. So it is just Hungarian is different. I don't feel that, Hungary is anyway different. I am proud to be Hungarian. I born there. I am proud, and I'm very happy that I born to my family, and we weren't we didn't have too much. I never get like microscope or chemistry kit for Christmas. I never had a tutor in my life, nothing. It was just I did my best. And so it is just an example that you don't have to have parents who are professors, that as long as you put your head onto it, just like my daughter, I have to say that I'm just prepared today a presentation for about, sports and science, and there my daughter get all of this most improved player, most improved. She was never the most valuable player. It was she said that I was horrible and became so. So that, and she was like, she was at the university second year when she first started to row, and in 2001, and then she almost made the 2004 Olympics. She was there for 2008 Olympics and 2012 get gold medals, whereas in the high school she was not good at anything. And it is just, sometimes people think that somebody who will be so successful already 3 years of age, already, doing sports and doing science and others. No, let the children to play in the sand and do their things. And let just, sometimes I get letters, you don't believe, like a mother is writing that my 6-year-old daughter is so much interested in cancer research. I said, no, please let the child.
Garden like you were. You were playing in the garden. Botany and biology was outside.
Exactly.
Anatomy was with your father being a butcher, right? Opening, you tell the story of the inside the pig, butchering of the pig, or any other animal that your father, helped you guys survive with. So life is science.
Yes. Yes, so I think that all children and everybody should be what age appropriate, play and have fun and have with the chores at home. It will help you. Yeah, so I have a very simple life, and we lived in one room, with my parents and with my sisters. That's what we could afford, and it was, the love was there, and I never felt, because other neighbors had the same thing, no refrigerator, television set, so that, that was the normal. And even today, I don't feel that I missed the TVs, something. No.
So, a lot of Saget, you went to I hope I'm saying right, Saget University, right? Saget, a lot of Indians now from India going there to study medicine, actually, that school. They're teaching English, I think. It's a very good school. I heard a very good name. Tell me your experience in Saget. What did you learn? And you donated half of your Nobel Prize money to that university. Tell us a little bit about that university experience for you.
Yes, actually, when they said that, oh, my God, your university get graduate, and somebody who was teaching there, you get a Nobel Prize. I said, I was not the first one. Albert Szent-Györgyi, in 1937, he was teacher at the University of Szeged, and he got the Nobel Prize for discovering vitamin C. Yeah. And so I was not the first one. And there are excellent scientists are there, and so it was, very difficult to get in. It's like for the whole country, there were just 20 scientists, biologists was accepted. And so it was very competitive. And once you got in, you get housing and food and everything. So my parents wouldn't be able to afford. My sister is in economy and studying economy in Budapest. I am studying biology, and so it would not be able to afford. So it is the system was favoring that. Blue collar workers, children could go to school, and the teachers encouraged us, that because my parents wouldn't say, oh, you should be a professor or something, they wouldn't, because there were no such people in the whole small town. We would have idea that what they are doing. So at this university, we studied, except Sunday, there were no class on Sunday. But I remember Monday, 7:15, we already started. At 8 o'clock in the evening, we had so many practice and lectures and unbelievable. So it was, we learned plants and animals and Latin name, all of the plants Latin name and the bones name. Oh my God, so many things. Chemistry, we have biochemistry, physical chemistry, colloid chemistry, so many different chemistry, analytical chemistry we started with. And I have to say that some of my classmates, they were in chemistry class in high school, so they knew how to work with the pipette. I didn't even know which end I have to use it and how. And that was the same. English in our small town, you couldn't study English. We learned Russian and Latin. So I went there. I am 18 years old, and I cannot say a word in English. And so others were already, could speak well English. And so everything was always to catching up, because the others are more advanced already. But then, I used to work and study hard. And some people, sit back and they can say, oh, complacency. And then they can realize that, oh my God, so much to study. Anyway, so I enjoyed very much, and the university had excellent professors. And so I was very, very happy that I could get at the University of Szeged. And I am going back. I became a professor again in 2022 when I resigned in BioNTech. And so I am professor there and go back talking about innovation and giving some lectures. And yeah.
Very exciting. One thing that's the theme from the very beginning till today and tomorrow, and it's persistence and goals, persistence and goals. Okay, we met this one. What's the next one? That seems to be a theme for your life.
Yeah, that's very nice, because, even I realized that in elementary school, I set up goals, and it is important that you work towards a goal, like, submitting an essay about a famous scientist. And that was advertised in the high school. But I, as an elementary school student, I wrote something about carbon lineage. I never get any award for that. And it is what is important. The award is that you accomplish. You learn that there is a deadline, and you finish and submit. And you don't get any extra, some kind of points for it. Just you do it, because so that's how you set up goals. And it is when we are in school, it is, we have to pass that exam, but we forget that later life, we should set up goals and then accomplish and then finish. And so that's when I went to Germany after I was terminated here at my job at age 58. I worked there 8 years at BioNTech, and I thought that is the last chapter of my life. But now that, I started a company and doing a clinical trial, and because I have ideas, and I usually don't say anything about what is all about, because I remember when once Ugur Sahin, who established BioNTech, I told him that, Moderna was talking about, they make press release about what they are doing. Shouldn't we do also? And he said, Katie, we will talk about when we have something to say. So that's what I am doing. I will
Okay.
talk about next time when I have
Let us go
something
back.
to say.
That's exciting.
Let us go back to your life in Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
That's one of the top schools in the world,
Mhm.
University of Pennsylvania. How did you move that journey came from Saget to the University of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so what happened, I was 30 years old. I worked at the Biological Research Center in Szeged after I graduated in 78. And then 1985, there were no more money, job. And so I tried to apply for jobs within Hungary, then in Europe, and I couldn't. And finally, I get a job at Temple University, and we arrived here. And so it was like I was jobless in Hungary, was kicked out, and then I get a job in America. Okay, now I start to work here. But when my supervisor, who appreciated that I work day and night, learned that I planning to go to another university, get an offer, he, kicked me out and subjected me deportation. So eventually, ended up 1989 at University of Pennsylvania, where I get a faculty position. So you know that at age 30, I have nothing in Hungary, and now age 34, I get a faculty position in an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
I was always emphasized, when you are kicked out anywhere, don't waste your time to feeling sorry for yourself. Don't go around and say, oh, why me? No, you have to put all of your effort to figure out what next, because that's what you can change. Though somebody made a decision out, but you cannot change that, but you can change where you end up. And of course, at Penn, when I was 45 years old, or 40 years old, they took me out of the faculty. And when I was 58, they were completely forced me retired. Again, instead of after 24 years at Penn, I remember walking to my car, the last day, no goodbye party, nothing, I sit there and then focus on, okay, now where should I go? And then I went to BioNTech, which was a small company, just a handful of people. Today is 7,000 people work there, but in 2013, when I arrived, we were just a handful. And then I worked there and became a vice president. When some company is small, you get a position, but we grow, and again, so that not focusing too much. Why, I was there Saturday, Sunday. Why university is not appreciating, and I'm not angry with the chairman or anybody who terminated me, because I didn't get grant. And I was in neurosurgery, a clinical department. How a neurosurgeon would know that what I'm doing important? He could see that I didn't get any grant. I am not. And this Stoic philosophy I learned in high school, that you just focus on things, what you can change. You don't blame others, and don't aggravate yourself and others. Just
Focus, focus, and keep going. Keep your focus and keep going. I couldn't help but think of the parallels between an entrepreneur and a startup and a researcher. Forward, 10 steps back. Forward, 10 steps back. And if you have that focus, and you have that passion, and you have the ability, and you're going to just keep going. You're just going to keep going. And you're such a dramatic hero in my world right now for that.
Yes,
The going factor, it doesn't even matter the topic we're talking about, much less the most dramatic topic that you have worked on and what you did bring to humanity. Pretty dramatic from your humble beginnings to today. And regardless of the beginnings, like you said, other scientists have similar beginnings. It's more about your passion for focus and keeping going.
Katalin, how did you get this idea of mRNA? It works as a medicine. That's a very, very forward thinking, actually, for those days. And the entire scientific community said that mRNA is impossible as a medicine is impossible, because that it is dying immediately. The immune system is reacting fast. So where did you get this idea of mRNA as a medicine? It could work. And where it was born in your mind, that's an amazing mind that I wanted to learn as a physicist.
Yes, so I was working with RNA actually, but not mRNA in Hungary. As my graduate or PhD work was RNA, and actually as an undergraduate, I worked with liposome, and we put DNA and put it in lipids and whatnot. And so I was already exposed to that. And what happened when, at Temple University, I was chased out and subject to deportation. The last minute, I just could get a job at Bethesda, at the Uniform Service University of Health Sciences. And because my family lived here in Philadelphia, my daughter and my husband, and I was there day and night, so Monday I went there and Friday came home. I slept in the office. And as long as I could be, I was in the library, closed 11 o'clock. And sometimes 11, I went back to the lab and started another experiment because, I want to occupy my mind. And then in the laboratory, in the library, I read so many things. And I was reading about this antisense RNA when they try to target the messenger RNA. And I was wondering, if something would be overexpressed, isn't that would be simpler just to deliver the mRNA? And then I start to look it up and found that, yeah, we can make mRNA from, other scientists in 1984 published that you can make mRNA. And so I formulated that, okay, that would be much better to use mRNA than try to use a antisense and try to find where this mRNA naturally is present in our body and inhibit it. And so when I came to job interview, I tried to get back to my family in Philadelphia. I proposed to Elliot Barnett, and who advertised in Science the position. And so, I tried to apply for many positions. And I remember that in one morning, I called up the secretary that whether they made a decision. It was a University of Pennsylvania. And then she said they couldn't find the right person. And I asked her that, tell Professor Barnett and look at mine again, and then she, and he called me back half an hour later and he said, okay, can you come? And I went with bring your notebook. And then when I went there, I had to show that things. And then he said, did you make that? I said, yes. Okay, hired. And that's how I get a pen. And then I told Elliot that what is important is that, we could use mRNA. He told me what he was interested in urokinase receptor. I said we could do it with messenger RNA. I will generate, I clone and whatnot. And I started this second part of the 80s. It was just unbelievable. So many things became available, techniques that you had a cell line and then you could generate RNA, DNA, sequence, PCR, every novel technology, and all of the scientists try to have the others. So when I send a letter, for example, to scientists who describe how to make the mRNA with this phage, plasmid and whatnot, I ask them to send me the plasmid and they put in an envelope and send it to me. And so
wow.
that's how it worked then. Everybody tried to have the others. Today, you need permission and sign a lot of paperwork, but it was, that's how it started. And I did the RNA, and then urokinase receptor RNA was the first we could demonstrate that it became, when I delivered to the cell, it became functional. So it translated to a protein presented on the cell surface. And for function, it had to be modified, different lipids, different sugars had to be attached to it. And a cell knew what to do. And I was just so amazed that, and we knew that it would be useful for something. But at first we thought, okay, maybe for cell therapy, like bone marrow transplantation, and we looked at what would be useful, increase the tip of the chromosome, and older people can give bone marrow to other people, and we did many other things, and then it started to do an animal experiment, and working with Drew Weissman, we realized that we have to modify the RNA, and when we discovered that nobody paid attention, we realized that we have to purify the RNA. I mean, I worked there like 2 years. I remember New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I was at the lab trying to figure out how to purify this RNA because it was so many contaminant was there, and you are just have an idea, and then you felt okay, I can go to the lab, and then I try out this one, maybe this one, and you try out so many things, and you just always not this way, but it is fun.
It's a, your copier machine story is a very famous story. Everybody talks about it. You're the Drew Weissman. Is that true or real?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the story a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say the truth was that I worked already at the neurosurgery department, but they didn't have there because the clinic is big and the lab was small. We didn't have their copy machine, but I still knew the code because I worked in with Elliot Barnett, and for Department of Medicine, I knew the code. So I went back to there to copy things. And I have seen this new guy. I haven't seen him, and that was Drew Weissman. He just came 1997 to Department of Medicine and Infectious Disease Unit. And so I was, talkative. Drew is very quiet. I have to say, his wife sometimes asks me that how things are in the lab. I said, Drew is not talking about. And she said, no, Drew has a limited number of words he can say every day, and he used up during the day. And when he comes home, no word left. So anyway, he's quiet. And, I was just bragging about because he was copying there his articles, because it was, we couldn't get digitally at that point yet. And then I was telling him what I was doing and asked him what he is all about. And he told me that he came from Fauci's lab, which I didn't know who is Fauci is. And then talk about that he want to develop vaccines. And I said, I am making RNA. At that point, I worked 10 years almost with RNA, messenger RNA, and there at Penn, because I went there in 89, and it is 97 we are. And so Drew said, yeah, it is interesting. I am interested to test out mRNA vaccines. I said, I can do you have the template? I can. And then he said, yeah, here it is. And then we went there, and then we started to work. We were two different buildings, never in the same department or something, and just collaborated. And Drew did not have much money, so he made the dendritic cells, the special immune cells, in the laboratory. And so we work shoulder to shoulder, really, so that, and then we discover things like that the RNA I am making has inflammatory reaction, which we couldn't figure out. How could it be? And then we investigated. And when we tested out transfer RNA, which has a lot of modification in their nucleosides, turned out that the tRNA was not inflammatory. And that gave the idea that we might have to incorporate some of those. Maybe we need all of those, just one of those. We didn't know. It was all curiosity driven. So we didn't figure out that we can make something. We just keep trying. And that's eventually we found that incorporating a modified building block in the RNA, then the RNA is not inflammatory. And for me, that was very important because I want to develop mRNA for therapeutic purposes, that the RNA codes for a therapeutic protein. Drew was interested in vaccine. At that point, we didn't know that inflammation may be interfering or maybe is good or not. But it turned out that it was also better if it is not inflammatory. Yeah.
There was a challenge for a delivery of the mRNA, right? How do you deliver the mRNA to the body? That's another. You are stuck with that kind of a problem, or what was a challenge that you went through?
Yes. So as I mentioned, as an undergraduate, I also published on DNA we put in liposome, and I work in the lipid team in Hungary. And so I knew that, the nucleic acid is not going through the membrane. We need special delivery tools. And of course, at the beginning, many different things we tried, polymers and others. And then, with Drew, we had this commercially available polymer, which worked in vivo in animals, but it was, we had to put together, and in 2 minutes we have to inject. So it was like not very practical. And then wherever somebody published a paper on formulation that we immediately contacted them, asked them that whether we send them RNA, whether they would formulate and send it back. And we, I sent out a lot of RNA. Probably some is still sitting in their freezer because they were not testing out. But anyway, that was one of the things we did. And then in meantime, I left and went to Germany, and Drew started to work together with Aquitas, and then I invited Drew to Germany, and he presented, and we started to collaborate with Penn at BioNTech, and that's so that the formulation was mostly Drew and Aquitas' work.
And then, here we are today.
Yes.
You're a truly unsung hero, Katalin. You saved millions of lives. COVID vaccine saved millions of lives. You know, my son is a neuroscientist guy. He studied in Vanderbilt, and then he's a clinical researcher. He's joining, and he wanted to have a question. I want to talk with he said that I want to talk with Katalin. Let me bring him to the table. Ramesh, that's my son. And
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi,
what is the
Ramesh.
question? He's a master's in bioscience, and then he also musician. So he has all the music clothes.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Ramesh. What do you say that?
Hey, so first of all, it's nice to meet you. It's an honor to meet you, actually. I was doing some reading on, your background and the research that you did, and one of the things that shocked me was how much resistance that, I guess, pushback there was towards, your discovery, which to me is one of the, now that we're looking in retrospect, it was a very progressive way of looking at vaccines. And two, I've run trials that incorporate your technology, as far as like mRNA vaccines. So I was, as far as one of the questions that I had for you is, where do you think the future of mRNA vaccine technology is headed? And especially with, like AI integration, and if that's something that's even being looked into for the identification of certain nucleotide patterns and cells.
So might mention about, the resistance. I have to say, are you a molecular biologist yourself?
So I'm more on the neuroscience side, but currently I do some clinical trials with more so on the GI side.
Yeah, okay. But if you ever work in a molecular lab, we work plasmids. And plasmid, it starts everything with this DNA, which you grow in a bacteria. And then you have to isolate back, to purify the plasmid. And you start with adding RNAs if you use the quiet-chain kit or something. And the laboratory, all of the molecular laboratory is contaminated with RNAs. And when I told somebody that, I work with RNA, and those people had experienced difficulties to isolate even RNA and hated the RNA work because it always degrades. And they thought, oh my God, I hate RNA. Well, how you can work with it? It always degrades. So that's what they assume, that it is so labeled, but because everything is contaminated already on those laboratory, the gel equipment, the refrigerator door and everything, and whatever they touched, it was RNA, disappeared. And so that's what they were skeptic. I could see the data, and so I was keep pushing forward. And so, of course, you can see that more than 150 clinical trial ongoing right now using messenger RNA. Half of them is vaccines, mostly viral. So prophylactic vaccines for things which is not existed, like HIV and influenza vaccine is developed. So some of them we had, and shingles they try to develop, and others.
RSV.
So that RSV is already approved, and others is bacteria, so against bacteria. So there are like tuberculosis, or Sanofi has like acne for, has a clinical trial ongoing. And parasites like malaria, sponsored by Gates Foundation. So that there are different pathogens, they try to prophylactic vaccines or therapeutic vaccines. The others is against cancer is mostly, using mRNA vaccine as a cancer vaccine. Those are individualized cancer vaccines, so the patient's tumor is sequenced and finding a mutation, and then those mutation incorporated to the mRNA that would code for those certain proteins with the mutation. So that's how it is developed, and they give back the patient like weekly dose, and so they can prevent return. And that was, BioNTech was the one for the pancreatic cancer, run this trial, and more than 3 years not returned. The cancer Moderna run for melanoma, for example, some individualized cancer. There are also shared tumor antigens where, whatever tumor type they can give to the patient. And I also was helping to develop mRNA coding for cytokines, which can stimulate the immune system, or mRNA coding for antibodies, so that the body can make the antibody, which is otherwise expensive medicine. And you can see that they are using for when somebody has a disease and not enough protein is made, so they deliver the mRNA, because it continuously, maybe they can have for a protein for a whole week instead of daily injection. And the latest one is really the autoimmune disease. They generate CAR T cells, and for myasthenia gravis is already phase 3 mRNA-based CAR T cell therapy, and also in lupus they have clinical trials. So many of them is running actually in China, because right now in here is not favored the messenger RNA, but science will win no matter what.
We know that for sure. Science will win. I agree with you there.
Always. And a lot of the trials that I've worked on I've seen a shift from focusing on attacking the symptom to a more prophylactic approach, as you've mentioned, to where they're kind of trying to go further up the cascade to the nucleotide sequence, to the RNA, as opposed to, like, even with MASH drugs or Hep C drugs, you're starting to see trials that are looking at working on the modification of the nucleotide sequence, as opposed to trying to get rid of scarring or things like that. So it's very interesting to see how your thought process is continuing to permeate this space further than maybe even intended, but into areas where people weren't even, beyond vaccines in general. So
yeah, I worked also actually TGF beta 3, which can, as a protein, was already introduced, which makes the scar free, healing. And I generated mRNA for that. And others are doing, many things. I can see, okay, I tried that and I submitted grants. I never get any of that. But I can see now that companies are formed for that, and they are doing, and I am very happy. And better understanding the disease, because many times, you are just treating the symptoms, but you don't understand really that what causing it. So that's a lot of things for the new generation of scientists is waiting for, that they should discover that what causing certain diseases.
Yeah.
Katalin, I'm sorry,
Go
I have a
ahead,
question
please.
that come up while you were talking. Those are such good questions, Ramesh. I'm curious, is there a team messenger RNA versus team altering DNA permanently, like the CRISPR? Is there a weighted push for where we are today and moving forward for either or?
Yeah, I mean, they are using actually the messenger RNA coding for Cas9 enzyme, and Intellia has a clinical trial running for transthyretin amyloidosis treatment, and those are advanced, I don't know, phase 2 or phase 3 trials, so that they permanently can change the genome. So, interestingly, because everybody, when there was gene therapy meeting, I remember in the 90s or 2000, I went. Nobody was talking about messenger RNA, maybe DNA, but even plasmid was not really, and because the gene therapy has to be the DNA, and then turn out that even for gene therapy, maybe the solution is mRNA, because the Cas9 is transiently present, so they are using for.
Katalin, I bought Ramesh because I want him to do PhD. So you're talking with you, inspiration for you to do PhD program. That's yeah. Thank you for Ramesh. You have any questions, Ramesh? You're done, or you have
So the last question I have for you is, for what, and this is I guess more philosophical / existential.
Okay.
What pushed you forward intrinsically when you were getting pushback for trying to push your research, when it might have just been at a certain point just you believing in it, or but like, what was the intrinsic thing that was like, I know this is correct, I have to keep fighting for this?
The data. I could see that, and I could see constantly how improved, less RNA, more protein was produced, and the data. And so it was, I believe that, what I was doing is, and because I did with my own hands. I had no technician ever. I made all of the solution I made. I was sure that zillions of mistake I have not made because I paid so much attention, and so I was believing that what I am doing, and I did not. So I had to also convince one person at least who had money, and that was first Elliot Barnathan. 7 years he paid my salary. I was first on the faculty. I was supposed to get my own, but I didn't get my own money. And then later, David Langer, who was a resident in neurosurgery, he convinced the chairman to give me space and salary. So I was employed by neurosurgery department for 17 years. And every time, they try to eliminate me, but, then David appeared from somewhere and then made sure that I will not be kicked out. And so I had to have somebody who had the funding, because I did not. And then is this conviction, that the believing, and I was not. So somebody was criticizing, I was always listening, but I knew that they don't see the data and they were not willing to listen to me. Then, I did not take seriously the criticism. You have to also understand my superior actually in cardiology was, very mean. And so if you respect somebody and then says something very detrimental, you are stupid or something, you have to take that person out of the pedestal. That I cannot respect, because otherwise you are destroyed. So for me, it was always important, this mental health, that person is not important for me anymore, even if it is my superior, because that how you have to learn handle the stress. And that's what I learned at age 16 by studying a book with our teacher in high school, that how to handle stress. And that if people would look at the same thing, same difficulties, but look at differently and act differently, they would be much happier life. And we practice there, even the very simple things, Ramesh, I would tell you that, hey, you are stupid. And then later I regret. And what the people are doing, they agonizing on it. I shouldn't say, but yeah, Ramesh said something which was really stupid and he started, and they wasting their time. What we learned is that I have to go, Ramesh, please forgive me. And that's it. if you forgive me or not, I cannot depend on your decision how I feel. So we learn that, okay, we have to act. And when I go back to you and say, I don't start with, hey, forgive me, but really you started because no. So it is so simple. And we practice in high school that's how we have to act. And we don't have to blame others. You get rejected your publication and you read and you say, oh, those people are so stupid. Why they, and then you say, oh, they didn't understand what I was writing. They did not understand. I should write better because they did not. So you have to end up what we learn in high school, what I should do, not others. Because the stress is coming. You want your father, your neighbor, your girlfriend, your friends to do something and they are not doing, then you get always frustrated and upset and stressed. You have to figure out what you have to do, that those should do what you want them to do.
What a lesson for young people, people like Ramesh. When you get a PhD, come back, Ramesh. Then we can talk with her more. Okay. Thank you for joining, Ramesh. Let me talk with her other stuff, so you can listen. Yeah. Thank you.
It was
Take
great
care.
to speak.
Oh,
Yeah. He's
that was brilliant. That just summarized anything and everything and everybody and where we need to be and how we need to be to keep on keeping on, to keep our focus, to keep moving forward, and to focus on what we can do. What can you do? What can I do today? And I love that you were looking at your numbers and you kept on going. Again, that's the mix between an entrepreneur and a scientist. Like if you're passionate and you know where you're going, you just keep going.
Yes.
Thank you for inspiring my people, like young people, like my son.
Oh,
They really that inspiration. You what you said is beautiful at the end. When he was talking with him, you said that is whatever don't put them in pedestal. If they're wrong, just you need to be self-confident about it. It's a beautiful. And the research side is more prevalent. A lot of times wrong things in science, as you said, that they wanted to publish in the Nature and they don't want to study Nature. He said that funny word. I like that. So that is we need to get away from that one and really study the nature truly in that sense.
Yeah, and the important is that everybody had to love themselves. They are important, and I try to say that. Hey, an aeroplane, I spent a lot of time last 3 years, the oxygen mask you put first on yourself because you have a child you try to help. If you are not well, because, then you cannot help. Unless you are happy and healthy, then you can. And then that's what I was telling to the women also. Don't sacrifice your career, just, family, because the family, your children will never do what you want them to do. Anyway, so that, try to incorporate less assistance to your child. Let them to learn how to fight for themselves, how to stand up after they fail, because, you don't let them to learn. You call up somebody to accept it here and there and try to arrange. Then they don't feel that they work for it. So that's what I try to emphasize also. Of course, if somebody wants to spend as a mother, and that's what is important for them to raise the child, that they should do that, and not in this world is the problem is everybody want to impress who is putting out pictures with a palm tree and the Lamborghini behind, and then instead of just asking themselves what makes me happy.
I have to circle back just ever so briefly to the very beginning of our conversation. Okay. Just because you were speaking about children, I have to just bring up and clarify my namesake. Your daughter, Susan, is not a 1, but a 2-time gold medal Olympian, right? In rowing. So you've done something right with your example, Katalin. So I'm going to I'll wrap that conversation up that you just said with that.
Yeah. So, I think that the children look at the parents and they try to emulate them. They try to do similar things. And then, if you watch the TV and tell them, okay, do your homework, that's how it will end up. They will try to not do whatever you tell them. But when they can see that you are working hard and you are proud and they try to be similar. My daughter told in Abington High School that she want to be up there with a Hall of Fame, like Booth, who made the speaker, graduated from that high school, and she said that I want my picture up there, and she was not sure what she will do because just like, it's it's listening. So I don't know.
Yeah, Katalin, there are a lot of many books you have written about you at least, but you have written your own book, Breaking Through. Tell me that writing a book is not fun. It's like a breeding almost. How did you do that?
You don't believe it is 16 different languages is published.
Oh my gosh.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, the latest is coming in Polish, Serbian, and Romanian, but it was in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and all of the European languages. And so I, during the pandemic, when they discover, that I was doing something on the vaccine field, and people send me letters that they want to write up my story. And I told my daughter, who cares about the boring life of a scientist? I was doing, pipetting, it's just no action. And in my life, I have the same husband for 45 years. There were, we were just not the action which people like to, enjoy, that something happening. And then finally, I had a helper who helped me to write. And my daughter get a publisher, and then the publisher helped me to get somebody help me to write it, and we worked together. We rewrote with my daughter and back and forth, and just the same week when they announced that I get the Nobel Prize, it was published in Hungary. It came out a week earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2023. 2023 in October was, and in Hungary was already available because we wrote in English, but it was translated in Hungarian, and with my sister and friends, we rewrote, every sentence that it is how it sounds like me. And later other languages was published, and yeah, so I never wanted, I was just amazed. In Italy, I get 16,000 high school students voted, and I get an award, Asimov Prize, because the university students selected 5 books, which should be read by the high school student, and from the 5 books, they selected, and I get the literary prize in Hungary, and
Well,
yeah.
I can see why, because I read the first 150, 200 pages today, and the story is just genuinely wonderful of the amazing life of a woman behind the mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And you are truly a mentor for all of us.
Thank you.
Katalin, you're really inspiration to the. My father is from a small village, a doctor and a teacher. He's like multiple roles he was playing in my village, small village, 2,000 population, as you said. There's no running water. Today he passed away, but he would have been so happy to see you, talking with you. He would be blessing me. What a pleasure, honor to have you on the podcast and talking with my next generation of my children is truly an honor and a privilege to have you. It is a you are a star. You're a world-renowned scholar, scientist. But it came from humble beginning. That is a story to be retold everywhere. Thank you so much for joining with us.
Thank
Susan,
you
have
for
any
inviting me.
No, I'm just in awe and I'm in pleasure, and I'm just fortunate to be here, and via osmosis, I get to experience your energy and your thoughtfulness on this call. I really so much appreciate you joining us.
Please come back.
You people who are listening would realize that I am just one of them. I just keep doing things, and I have no special talent, no special memory, no nothing unique.
Well, and that's why we want you here more than anything, is amazing people doing amazing things, sending dynamic ripples of good out into the planet. Thank you.
As you said,
Thank you,
Katalin, as you said in the beginning, the scientists, we are I'm a master's in physics. We need to communicate that into the public. That's very important for us.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility for us. And please keep coming back to us. You're welcome anytime. We can cancel all of the guests for you.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's truly an
Take
honor
care.
and privilege to have you. Goodbye, all of you.
Goodbye.
And if you
Thank
stay
you.
for a few minutes. Just goodbye.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it